Hello there YouTube, welcome back to another TechRadar Show. You'll notice that Patrick Goss is missing in action today, replaced with Mark Chaxfield.
Yep. Are we allowed to talk about what Patrick did, why he's not here?
Don't think we can, for legal reasons.
Cool, we'll just smooth over that.
But the restraining order has been dropped, so Mark and I are allowed to now work within close proximity.
Yep.
How's it feel, Mark, being on the couch?
I like it. I've heard a lot about this couch. It has got some weird stains, but we won't go into that either.
Patrick, we're not going to talk about that.
Okay, good. But no, it feels good, it feels comfy.
Yep.
It feels like I'm at home.
Good.
Yeah.
So I've been away, out of the tech scene for a couple of weeks, trekking around all sorts of places where out of the reach of network signal and any other kind of tech really. So I'm a bit out of the loop if I'm honest.
Yep.
Don't really know what's been going on.
Okay.
A couple of stories I picked up on.
Yep.
Just fill me in. What's the big stuff?
Well, I think first of all we should talk a bit about the tech that you used on your mountain trip. So what sort of things did you actually bring with you up this mountain? And was it a mountain?
Well, it wasn't actually a mountain. Contrary to popular belief, I'm just going to quash the rumours right now. It wasn't a mountain. It was just a trek. I went through the Outer Hebrides, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
But yes, out of the way of reception, I was completely cut off, which was actually really nice, especially when you do a job like this, which is very tech intense. Yeah. But I did use a bit of tech. I used, so I actually took the autographer with me, which, in case you're unaware, is a wearable camera that kind of takes pictures throughout the day without you having to kind of interfere.
So random pictures are taken.
Random pictures. It takes up to 2,000 throughout the day, and it does so by detecting changes in light. So it's not constantly taking pictures, so you end up with like the same picture 2,000 times.
So did you just have lots of pictures of sheep?
There are a lot of pictures of sheep and fields, but within there are some gems, and I think this is the great thing about the autographer is it does get those pictures you wouldn't normally take.
Okay.
And there were some great pictures in there. The problem is sifting through the other 1,950 pictures to find those good ones. But it's a good bit of kit. I used a couple of like fitness things as well. I mean, I always have the Nike Fuel Band on me. To be honest though, it showed that this isn't really ideal for kind of big treks or something like that. This is more of like a day-to-day wearable, which I felt when I was using it there. But I was using things like the Jawbone and Moves actually for the first time, like properly using that. So yeah, it was nice. So I had a bit of tech on the go, but I was trying to be as far away from it as possible.
So you didn't hear much news, so you don't really know what's going on?
Not a lot.
Okay, so I guess the biggest news of the week is probably Microsoft. They had a patent out that looks like they're going to be making a smartwatch, or as we found out this week, it's probably going to be a smart band, and it's going to be contextual. So it's going to know when you're out running, it's going to know when you're in the car, it's going to know when you're at home. So instead of messing around with all the different apps and things like that, it will understand what you're doing, it will put that into context, and it means that all the right apps will come up when you're driving. Do you think that's a good thing?
I think that's really good. Yeah, I think that's very positive. I think it's interesting because obviously Google are going very much down the Google Now route. They've got Google Now, Apple hasn't, so they're going to go very fitness. Yeah. It sounds like Microsoft's doing the fitness thing as well. Yeah. But the contextual thing, I think is very important for wearables. I think being as hands-off with the wearables as possible is important. I did see a little bit about the Microsoft. So I saw that it's sounding like it's going to be cross sort of platforms, operating system agnostic, which I think is really important because they don't want to do what Samsung did with the Gear originally and just tie it to Microsoft phone devices because they're not going to sell many. And I think given that Apple's probably going to be tied to iOS, Google's is tied to Android Wear. So I think it's important that Microsoft is as open as possible. I think it's going to be a good thing for them. Interesting that it sounds like they're more doing a fitness band than a watch. Yeah, well, the patent looked like a really rubbish old school watch, but obviously patents are completely different to what you actually get. And then the rumour out really recently is that it's going to be a smart band, really. Yeah. And that's already quite a crowded marketplace. So, it is, absolutely. So I guess if they're going to make it contextually aware, that's one good way of actually of making sure people know that there's a Microsoft smart band around. Yeah. I really like the idea of it being contextually aware. I know Sony tried to do something like this with their phones with the NFC tags. So you would put your phone on an NFC tag and it would know if it's next to your hi-fi, it would start playing music. And so, but that never really took off. And I think the gadgets in the future, if they can almost transform into what you want them to be, where they are, that'll work really well. And if Microsoft can nail that, then I think that's a great thing. And you can tap into things like Bing and Bing Health, and I mean it's got a lot of places it can go, I think. I am interested to see what Microsoft will do. I was slightly skeptical earlier, but the more I'm hearing about it, the more rumours, I'm thinking it could be quite interesting. I think actually doing what they're doing, which sounds like more of a combination of what Apple and Google are going to do. Apple's going very extreme health. I doubt Microsoft will match Apple on the health sensors. I feel like Apple's been working at it harder and longer, going by the rumors. Somewhere in between could be quite interesting, a kind of more open device that does a bit of both and it works across platforms. Actually, Microsoft could have a really good wearable in its hands.
So the other big story this week is Facebook. Looks like it's been trolling us once more.
Now this one I did hear, even from out in the remote hebrides, I heard the yelling of angry people.
So the basic idea is that Facebook, in some of its posts in 2012, did a little bit of an experiment where it would put out happier posts and see if people's responses would be happier, and put out sadder posts and people's responses were sadder. The problem is it didn't actually explicitly tell people they were doing this. There's been a massive uproar saying that Facebook has been mucking around with our lives and everything like that. But what are your thoughts? Do you think Facebook should be mucking around with its algorithm like this? Do you think it should be left alone?
I think you're right about the explicit thing about them not saying, and they admitted it, but after the thought. However, I feel like people are overreacting to this a little bit. I think these sorts of studies are quite interesting. I think they do have value.
Yep.
I think the only fear is what Facebook will then do with the results of that. I think that's what we need to be worried about. But I think the fact that Facebook's done this, I'm not as concerned as a lot of people. I think even though they admitted it afterwards, they still published the findings.
Yep.
Google, I mean, I don't know what Google does, and other, sites and whatever. There's a lot of data collected about people that we don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel more comfortable knowing that it's been taken, at least they're admitting to it. And I think there is value in this sort of data as well. And I mean, Facebook's done these sorts of things before. I remember the one in the US elections in 2010 where they showed different people different adverts to go out and vote, and it actually showed that some adverts did actually persuade people to go out and vote. And I think that's amazing data. If you can do something with that. It's also interesting because it kind of disproves the theory, which I think was one of the things they set out to do, which that if people read happy Facebook posts, they actually feel sad. So it does feel like there has been some value in this. So no, I'm not actually as concerned about it as some people. I mean, we all know that they're constantly taking data. I mean, I remember there was another study they did. They didn't actually collect what the data was that people were putting in, but they were monitoring self-censorship as well.
Yeah.
So when people would enter something and then delete it. That one concerned me a little bit more. Again, they weren't actually taking the information. They weren't seeing what people read, but they were kind of receiving sort of binary values to say someone has put something and then deleted it. That one concerned me a little bit more. It's like, they're going to try and stop self-censorship. How do you kind of go around that? Why are they trying to do that?
That is the interesting thing. I think what Facebook have done is slightly messed with the human psyche a little bit, because they're obviously trying to manipulate emotions, so putting happier stuff on to make people happy. That is manipulation. It was within almost a closed environment, because it was only 700,000 people who were actually targeted. But if they can do that on a wider scale, without people knowing, that's quite scary. That's 1984 territory.
It is. This is my point. I'm not scared about what they've done. I'm scared about what they're going to do with this information now. But I think we're all aware that Facebook's taking data all the time. I mean, actually, this sort of stuff is in the T's and C's at the bottom. I know no one ever goes through that. No one reads the iTunes agreements.
49 pages.
Exactly. But it is in there. So legally speaking, they're not really doing anything that wrong. But there are ethical implications.
But like you said, there's a lot of tech companies out there that use algorithms
absolutely.
Netflix, the biggest thing is their algorithm. And also Google, how they use their algorithm. We don't know the absolute ins and outs of this. We don't know if some companies pay Netflix to get their movies out there, or if it's just recommendations. There's a huge amount of stuff out there, and it's the same with Facebook. To be honest, I'd like my Facebook algorithm to be messed with. Get rid of all the baby photos. Get rid of all the protest things. I don't care about any of that. And if they want to mess with it that way. Mess with my emotions. It's a bit more.
Well, most people on my Facebook feed are complaining about Facebook. So what do you do with those? Do you censor those? Like, what happens there? So one bit of news I did pick up on was that Oculus are going to be rolling out their next version, which I'm excited about, so I just get my hands on it.
They are, but obviously the bigger news is that Google is getting into the VR game with its cardboard version of the Oculus Rift, really, where you got a bit of cardboard, you put your phone in it, and it turns into. Why are you looking at me like that? It's
because you're making it up. That's
absolutely true. It happened. Google I/O. They released a cardboard version of.
It's rubbish. You're winding me up because I've been away and you're just coming in with some
Okay,
stupid
okay,
story. At least
I
do
know-
something believable.
I know that you created your own Moculus Rift.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, what was that? That was a pair of goggles and a bit
And
of cardboard.
a bit of cardboard.
And
almost like.
yeah, but that's essentially what they're doing. So they've got a bit of cardboard, you put your phone in the cardboard, and you've got your own virtual reality
That's
headset. Essentially, I think that what they're trying to do is prove a point that virtual reality can be very cheap, or you can go down the Oculus route where it's a bit more expensive and a bit more wide-ranging. But basically, it is Google showing that anybody can do virtual reality at the moment.
It sounds like our Oculus Rift was actually better.
Yeah, I think our
Google's.
Oculus Rift, we should have trademarked the Oculus Rift.
Should, yeah.
To be honest. At least we gave a free pair of goggles with it.
That's true, yeah. I've actually, well, I mean, I guess it shouldn't surprise me that much. I have seen and played with a few of these similar devices,
Yeah.
one which was made of plastic,
Yeah.
but again, you slide your phone in. And you know what, the VR experience was actually pretty good. It wasn't up to Oculus / Project Morpheus
Yeah.
level, but it wasn't far off. It was very close. And yeah, I think Google's making a good point there that actually virtual reality is going to be a lot easier to do, and I think a lot of people. So maybe, you know, I think maybe is this bad news for Oculus? Is it a bit worrying? Maybe they should be a bit concerned. Like, well, you know, there are going to be a lot of competitors. It's going to become like the smart band, fitness band market is going to become very crowded very quickly.
Exactly, there are going to be a lot of competitors, and also it doesn't matter if you strap a hunking great big bit of plastic to your face or a bit of cardboard, you're going to look ridiculous either way. So that's the way virtual reality is at the moment.
Yeah, no one's really judging you. Well, a little bit.
Well, yeah.
But in the safety of your own home. But then you've got the questions of virtual reality on the go. I mean, if you've got your phone in there, do it on the tube.
You could do it on tube, but what if you were the Google cardboard thing outside and it starts to rain? It just starts to melt and
That's
get limp.
a good point. Have to have some backups.
Yeah, definitely.
In the bag.
Yeah, or just another bit of cardboard.
Or just another bit of cardboard.
Just carry around a load of boxes for your virtual reality experience. Okay, before we go, I think we need to give a massive shout out to something that completely changed music for everybody, the Sony Walkman, which is 35 this week.
Which is admittedly older than me,
well,
I can't
it's
really...
older than me as well, let's not...
Is it though?
It is just
marginally
older than me,
older.
yes.
Well, so I don't really have memories of the first Walkmans that were around, but I imagine you do.
Unfortunately, my memory of having the first Sony Walkman is seeing my friend with a Sony Walkman and my lovely, lovely parents buying me the cut-down version that was called an Alba.
So often the way,
An Alba Walkman. So I
Yeah.
basically had the rubbish version while my friend had the cool Sony version. But it did have the over-the-head
same.
earphones and
Yeah.
everything. I wore it with my bum bag and my shell suit. So I was kind of, it was a good 80s device to have, I think. Yeah.
It was great. I mean, the Walkman, I know I wasn't quite old enough to properly appreciate it, but you know, I had one at one point,
Yeah.
and you know, I think it was a bigger deal that people now attribute the iPod to revolutionising portable
but
music. It was the Walkman.
It was absolutely the Walkman.
And it's, you know, I find it interesting when I hear stories about like the first one where Sony put in 2 headphone jacks and a microphone because it was worried about the kind of isolation problem. So it being a social thing, it was like, oh, we have to, you know, have 2 people so they can talk to each other without listening to music, which seems absurd
now it's
nowadays.
completely crazy. Now you don't want to speak to anybody.
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
put your headphones in. There was a lot of technological advancements for the Walkman. Is when you could do long play, so you could have 2 albums on one tape instead of 1 album. That was amazing. And then obviously the iterations of the Walkman went on, and then it was the Sony mini disc player, which actually was something I definitely had.
Yeah.
And something as a journalist that I used for years, just recording people and managing to get 5 or 6 albums on one disc, which was phenomenal. So and then obviously that paved the way in the end for the iPod. So Sony should be remembered for an amazing product.
And if there's any real testament to the brilliance of the Walkman, it's the fact that Cliff Richard did a song, Wired for Music, which was essentially a tribute to it. And I've heard no tribute songs to the iPod, really.
No,
so,
I'm quite scared you know that.
Yeah.
So that's the end of another TechRadar show. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to be here next time. Depends if Patrick can get out of his shallow grave, but I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's not bad for your first go.
Yeah.
Not too bad. 6 out of 10, I'd say.
That's pretty good.
Patrick's normally on about 3.
Okay,
so
good to double what Patrick normally does.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, let us know what you think in the comments below, as ever. How do you feel about what Facebook's been up to? What do you think about the possibility of your Microsoft Fitness Band? Let us know below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Actually, where is Patrick?
No idea. I thought we were just joking.